Welcome into Rise and Grind with 72 the Architect. Today we're going to continue approved and denied part two. Today we're going to focus only on approval, your approval, their approval, approval ourselves. That's what we're really going to focus on. So welcome to Rise and Grind, and stay tuned just here in a minute. All right, welcome back, everybody, to part two of Approved and Denied. So, last episode, I kind of covered both a little bit and really more focused on the negative part, which is the denial. But is it really negative? Not necessarily. So, what I want to do and really encourage is people to think about, what do you need approval for? And usually, approval is starts with a connection. It's from you where you're at to a destination you want, a thing that you want to add to your life, to have, work, love, all that great stuff. So that's what we're really going to focus on. But before we really do that, I want to touch a little bit on the Daily Stoic, which is a book you can purchase on Amazon and pretty much anywhere you can buy books, Barnes and Noble, all that great stuff. So what I want to encourage everybody to think about is, the processes of getting approved. And Stoicism always kind of brings everything all home to me. And before I really, dive deep into it, I want people to just take a moment. You may be starting your day, or you've already started a day. However, it may have begun. Let's really take a look at some of the processes, the living, the life, all that great stuff. So I use Stoicism exactly to do that. And matter of fact, let's see, let me switch to the page that I was supposed to be on. Excuse me for a moment. Okay. All right. So today was titled All is Fluid on page 334. And Ryan quotes Marcus Aurelius, and he says, and I'll say it very slowly, the universe is change, life is an opinion. Ooh. So when he says the universe is change and life is opinion, Ryan Holiday goes on to explain the Plutarch's life of Theseus. He describes how the ship and the Theseus, and an Athenian hero, was preserved by the people of Athens in battle-ready condition for many centuries. Each time a board of decayed, it would replaced until eventually every stick of wood in it had been replaced. Plutarch asks, is this still ship of Theseus, or is it a new one? Now, in Japan, a famous Shinto shrine is rebuilt every 23 years. It's gone through more than 60 of those cycles. Is it one of the shrines 1,400 years old, or 60 consecutive shrines? Even the U.S. Senate gives its staggered election, could be said to have never been fully turned over. Is it the same body formed in the days of George Washington? Our understanding of what something is just a snapshot, an ethereal opinion. The universe is in a constant state of change. Our nails grow and are cut to keep growing. New skin replaces dead skin. Old memories are replaced by new memories. Are we still the same people? Are the people around us the same? Nothing is an example that this fluidity, not even the things we hold most sacred. So, the real question of the day says, what principles will steer me through the flow of change? And I feel that that is a very, very important question. We look at every day like we want something to exist, something to be in joy. And joy is not always, it doesn't always stay. Neither does anger, neither does depression. Any of the emotions you feel, nothing is permanent in your living experience. They're all transitional. They come in, they go out, and it's a cycle. It goes over and over and over. So when it comes to approval, I was listening to certain things by Gary Vaynerchuk. I was listening to people talk about their finances, people talking about their endeavors, but I never heard them ever, not once, just talk about what it feels like to be there. The goals have to be changing. I'm hearing more people talk about 2023. And I posed a question in a few discussions yesterday. I said, before you really look at 2023, have you looked at 2022? Did you accomplish all what you set out for this year? Was it that important to make it a goal to be achieved? Or was it just a carefully crafted idea that you might play with, like a video game or a card game or something to pass around in conversation? Approval starts with you. You are the origin, you are the start. And that interest of yours, that curiosity, the goals you made, all that great stuff, it all makes a difference in the long run. But along the way, as we grow older, we have to go through a careful sequence of rules, regulations, all that good stuff. But I'm going to tell you that there's more to life than rules and regulations. We have to barter, we have to trade, we have to make agreements, we have to say yes. And like James Clear says, he says that yes is an obligation, but he also says no is decision. How important can you use no in your approval? Maybe you might be feeling emotionally leveraged. Maybe you might be overwhelmed. You got hired in a job and find out that there were more than what you actually bartered for or that you agreed upon. Where do you say and put stop and not get approval? A lot of us have to go through that on an everyday basis. What about when our children disagree with us as they get older? They have minds of their own. Can you handle that? That poor little one that you saw that came from day one in birth to the moment you are 15 years later, it changes. But along those changes, your agreements, your approval, your obligations, as James Clear would say, your obligations are connection points. So to get first, the first part of getting approved on anything is your beliefs, who you are, what you do, why you do them. And if you understand that most, you will hold those sacred and dear. But you'll also understand about the fluidity of life, that you will have to come across a points of negotiation to agree. I approve of this moment. I approve of this transaction. I spend on this thing now and I will pay, or whatever my reserves, my resources are going to give exactly to that. Many times we don't even think about that connection alone, the obligation, as I said, and yes. So when you want whether approval on a credit card or an apartment, maybe even a job, maybe a position, a career path, before you put that obligation in a stamp to be reaction and real and action of your everyday life, think about what it really means to you. Have you measured that purchase? Have you measured that signature on the paper that says, I'm an employee, I represent RJ Ruffin stuff or whatever? You know what I mean? But if we really think about approval, it can be very stressful. It can. A lot of times I feel that when I have to get approval on different things, whether credit, business, clients, you name it, you have it, it is stress. And did I also think about that stress? But stress is not always bad. No. Stress means that there is a sense of worth and a place value of making a difference, right? I now think about not trying to achieve and trying to make things happen for other people, but how I'm going to make things happen for myself, for my family, the housing, the food we're going to have, the career path, the education that it's going to take, the negotiations that it will take. I always am ever mindful in the moments that I participate. And if I catch myself on autopilot, take a breath, reel back. So, how can we really increase the value of approval. There's a few carefully crafted things that I will suggest. Number 1, if you want approval, check your presence. That's first and foremost. Check your presence before others check you. That means brush your teeth, comb your hair, check your clothes. Sometimes we don't have the greatest fashion, but that doesn't mean that we can upkeep our fashion that we have and look presentable. Make sure that you have started every meeting with a smile, with a greeting, then the meeting, "Hey, good to see you." Like, for example, I have one of my, colleagues and friends, Graciela Moore, she said, "Good morning." I appreciate that. You know how I'd greet her in person? "Good morning, Graciela. It's so good to see you." And so many other people, whether it's a client or friend. Taking that initial energy and taking it and flowing it out, making it work, for you. That's right. You thrusting, as one of the other colleagues that I follow, C Rock, he would say, thrust is a must. I like that. Why? Because even when you don't feel it, eventually you just push it out. You get past, like I talked about, that emotional transition. That emotional transition might be a little difficult, but if you start the morning out and start the meeting out with a positive, with a gratitude, a greeting that you'd be wanting to greet in, then that meeting that takes place or that encounter, that assignment, that sales pitch, or maybe even that date could be the one difference. The positive. Now, some people are afraid of very positive people, you know, and when we look at that, you know, um, in dating, it's like we don't want to be denied. That's the key. We don't wanna be denied, and we see someone that's very attractive. Well, the number one thing that keeps attraction going to motivate, I will say, is the confidence and consistency. The pleasantness, the excitement, the smile. So greet with a smile. "Hey, good to see you. I'm glad to be here." Whatever, what have you. But that's very important to remember. So your presentation first before even, too much conversation has taken place before the words come out of your mouth. The second thing, always be an evaluator of the things that come out of your mouth. That's right. If you're looking at exactly what's coming out of your mouth when you're greeting people with vagueness, insecurity, unsurety, maybe, if, but, you should, I think. These are all vague instances where you're taken away and not put in the presence. So every time you speak to people, no matter what capacity, whether it's a child, an adult, a teen, a boss, an employee, it doesn't matter who it is. Always meet them with the affirmative. If you don't know, that's okay, because I would rather, when I'm committed to the conversation and they pose a question that I don't know, I just simply say, "You know what? I'm not aware. I don't know. I don't have the answer for this at this time." There's nothing wrong with that. That does not make you weaker. But what can make you weaker is if you committed to something, going into it and acting like you knew. And that's what we call assumptions. And that's where the bad sense of ego tends to take place. That's right, ego. Ego is constantly talked about in approval like it's a bad thing. But sometimes ego is actually absolutely necessary. Ego can be your confidence, it can be something that edifies you, but you also your temperance, which allows ego to flow and go, like when it needs to like set back and say, I need to listen to the person I'm with. I'm attentive. I'm not impulsive. I'm not going to talk over them. You know, that's right. You've got to realize that how you take that conversation with that other person is going to matter more. There was a discussion yesterday. I've been in so many different influential spaces, clubhouse rooms, wisdom talks, you name it, what have you, Twitter spaces. I've heard so many people talk about social media, but social media is just the vehicle, just like money is just the transactional vehicle. It doesn't guarantee you any happiness and it doesn't guarantee you any success. It really doesn't. But when we want approval, when we agree that we are going to need someone else or something else to connect us to the thing that's going to make a part of our lives and process work, right? Like, for example, like I was just talking about how I'm really not looking necessarily forward to 2023 just yet. I'm not finished with 2022 yet. I think that there are some more important works that I need to focus on right now before I continue to plant seeds for the next year. The next year is just a date. I don't know whether I'm gonna reach it. I don't know that I'm not gonna reach it. But for right now, I've taken inventory of what works and doesn't work. I understand that there have been different spaces through my life that year have been pushed, stretched, broken down. And you know what? And all looking back at all those different processes, even the most painful ones, I really started to consider what works. That's right. What works and what doesn't work so that I can understand when I'm not really prepared for the things that don't work. I can either work on them or say, you know what, that's not the direction I want to go with. So many of us are asking, what's the purpose in my life? Will I get approved? Will I meet that person? Will I have a secure life? Well, you're going to have to abandon a lot of securities, and there's no guarantee that you're going to live tomorrow, but that doesn't mean that you're going to pass. So when we look at approval, the next, like I said, the presentation, what comes out of your mouth, the agreements that you're going to make, now it comes the most important part of approval, the understanding. Yeah, understanding is huge. Coherence, discernment, these are all tools of approval, right? If you don't have understanding or coherence, which makes it like, hey, you know what's going on. If you don't have that after the presentation and the words, then you may have made an unnecessary commitment to yourself and to others, and then you'll dread it. How many times have you seen people make agreements and get into relationships without carefully evaluating what really would work? You're going to grow. There's a lot of things you don't know. You're going to mature. You're going to get, just like anything, you're going to get into a position as your skills increase, your frequency, your consistency, you might be approached for a raise. You might be approached for a position upgrade, new responsibilities, so on and so forth. You might have reached to a pinnacle point where it's like you can no longer go forward with any part of that company or organization that you joined. And now it's time for you to either go on to the next or create your own. Creating approval based on understanding is a really big deal. People say all the time, consistency, consistency, consistency. But if you're consistent at doing nothing or just sprinkling your efforts all over, but not focused, like I said, I want to finish 2022 out before I really put more weight. And the reason why I do that, I understand this because it happens every single year. How many times people have said, I'm broke after Christmas. I need to start going to the gym. I feel horrible. I didn't take care of my body. Well, guess what? I started working out 10, 11 days ago, you know, and I haven't been to the gym in 2.5 years. I didn't focus. Every time I went to the gym and past, it was stress. And it came in spurts. So something I used in the temporary, from my understanding, I committed to a fitness challenge from November 1st to December 24th. But it's not going to just stop at December 24th. I know that every single day that I either exercise in the gym, I will be doing walks. I will be consciously thinking about my nutrition. I will thinking about my spirituality. And that means meditation, taking patience with myself, beliefs, all is going to be very important, right? That's my understanding because when I commit to those elements, those things that make me better, stronger, gives me better clarity, I can speak exactly on what I only know. And there are many of us who speak on things we don't know. We talk about prophesizing and get to the center of you, your healing. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you about healing. Do you ever possibly think that you rehash out and you keep digging at your injury? That healing is a part of time, timing, season of events. A lot of my healing took place when I was working on a lot of other things. I was doing me either being a dad or being a professional, being a podcaster, a personality on YouTube. I was working on so many other things, and when I came to that understanding and counseling too, then guess what? I started doing more without saying, "Okay, I gotta heal, I gotta heal, I gotta let go." Most people won't even tell you where to begin or how they began when they truly healed because focusing on healing wasn't the byproduct, or I mean the main product. It was a byproduct of what they did in all walks of their life. See, one thing that I learned about this one book, it was called Forgive for Good, and I refer to it every so often when it spelled out what forgiveness was and what it wasn't. It was my understanding. And once I could let go and not rehash out and tell my sad story to every single person out there, then guess what? I started living with me and I understood the agreements I committed to. When I made a decision to say no, it stopped. I had no more obligation. I had no more points that I had to trust the thing. I just said, "No, it's cut off. It's done. I'm good with what I have." There are people who will talk you out of being self-satisfied. I think being satisfied are just temporary pauses to elements to level you up. There are many influential speakers who will say, "I want to level up." Great. I'm glad you do. Taking that point to level up means that you've reached a point of success. Yes, that's right. It works. We can go forward now to the next part of our puzzle. We will never fully see the whole picture of our lives. That's our legacy. But I'm okay with that. You know, after I did an interview with my grandmother a few years back, I think it was like 4 years back, and listening to our story, listening about me, my mother, my dad, her boys, her daughters, her husband, her walk of life. Think about that growing up in the 1920s and 30s or being born in that time, living 93 years, 93 freaking years, and trying to sum up a discussion that she didn't know that was going to exist for her kids and myself, her grandkids, and her ancestral children. No one realizes that that's a part of your understanding. They look back at their life, they look at the residuals, all that good stuff. But the point is that I gave reference that will live as long as the technology exists. But I also understand that was her story, my part of my origins. So when I look at today, when I look at about approval today, whether you apply for credit, think about why are you applying for that leverage against yourself? When you make a friendship, is there going to be an obligation and an expectation or just an extension to flow? Many of us don't even understand that. We think that once we have friends, that they are obligated to have our backs at all times. When we think exactly about approval, we a lot of times use it as a judgment against us. It's a stressor. A lot of people have daily anxieties. Think about what that means. If my like a friend of mine, um, you know, they lost their car keys and they were so scared of what their partner was going to say because their partner had told them, "Hey, go get replacements made," and they never were made. They were more afraid of the outcome of denial that they disappointed. But maybe if you just say, "Hey, it was on my list, I just didn't do it. I own up to it. How can we process through that?" Right? They're anticipating the fear of denial, but their approval, like a scared, timid person, could just be saying, "You know what? I don't know. And there's no point in really trying to really shame me, ridicule me, or whatever. But there is a point where we can get to the process to get in the vehicle to do our daily thing." Right? That's very important. You know, understanding coherence is a big, big deal. If you don't have understanding in your approval process, whether you sign the dotted line Right now it's getting closer to Veterans Day. This Friday I have on Clubhouse, on Room for Veterans. I'm supposed to have a meeting with a couple other people, how to put this together. How many veterans can we reach on Clubhouse? Many. And we discuss some of the dangers. How can we help veterans go forward and celebrate them? Should it be a dumping session? I hate to say it. There's a lot of veterans who have a lot to say, who have a lot of experience and have a hard time processing. But if we understand what we're going to do in that room, for example, then you know what? We can control and really encourage the positive outcomes. So, encouraging them to be confident, understand you paid a price. You know what? It's going to be a difficult walk the day that you walk off that line out of uniform, all that great stuff. And I know, I mean, I've been in the United States Navy. I know what it's like to have that commitment. What's life at post military. So understanding is the next big critical thing about, about approval. Once you have that, then it's the action, very, very important about all of this. Action is like so big in my life because I would have to say and own up to this. I bullshit a lot in my life before, and now I'm paying the price of just being proactive, not letting things escalate, not letting my room get out of hand or my clothes getting, you know, taking that presence, owning my living experience, knowing that I'm going to be an asset to my kids and they're going to be assets to me. Right. So, as we get ready to wrap this up, I definitely will tell you there are so many different things that you can work on. But if you can really work on those four principles, your coherence and your understanding, the vanity, your words, all those things are going to matter to you. They're going to be your calling cards. And there is a bonus fifth part. It's the reputation of your consistency of all those things that you did. Reputation is a lot what people want to know. Can I trust you? Well, how much do you need to trust? Well, I have an invitation. You can either, enjoy it or not. Anyhow, well, that's pretty much it. And I wanted to reach 30 minutes, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who's come in and out of my VCast, my podcast. I will be posting this. I just joined RSS.com, which is going to be distributing my audio podcast for everyone to enjoy. So if you like 72 The Architect, Rise and Grind, here's what I will definitely say, that you can go and you will have a place to listen. I will be uploading this within the next 3 days for Apple, Google, Stitcher, whatever, wherever you can listen to podcasts, even Spotify. Those are places you can find me at, but you can find me every single Monday and Wednesday, unless I put a calendar pause. You can find me Rise and Grind here on live on YouTube. Today I produced on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter Spaces, and Twitch, as well as Clubhouse. So if you're a part of any of those platforms, you can look me up, 72 The Architect, and that's it. Anyhow, I hope you all have had a great morning with me. I wish you luck today. Get those approvals by understanding yourself and go get them. You can do it. All right. Y'all take care now. Have a great one. Let's see.